The cliffhanger. When used right, it can be a really exciting tool to include in your movie and get your audience craving for another installment. But if you aren't careful, it can annoy them instead and make them feel cheated. Across the Spider-Verse left some people feeling that way when the end credits came up, and I was one of them. Alert! This video is opinion and should not be seen as writing advice. This is simply a person exploring story options as a mental exercise. Also, spoiler alert, obviously. Look, I like the movie, and I love the first movie even more, but my problem with it isn't that there was a cliffhanger. It was marketed as a part 1 movie. Everyone expected a cliffhanger. My problem was that they spent most of the film setting up ideas and not paying them off in any satisfying way. So we start off with Jefferson getting ready to be promoted to captain, and at the end we see he's still getting ready to be promoted to captain. Yeah, we learn that the promotion is going to bring his inevitable death, but that's not a payoff. That's a discovery that flings us into a new chapter of our story. I hardly would count that as a satisfying end to our picture. Next, Miles' conflict with the Spider Society. We learn early that he's clearly not wanted as a part of Spider Society. Eventually, it turns into an all-out conflict, and Gwen rounds up a small team to take them on. Again, that's a turning point or a discovery, but it's not a satisfying conclusion where I'm like, I got answers. Our third conflict has to do with Spot. Now, I actually quite like how they approached introducing Spot and then not entirely paying off his storyline and leaving it towards the third movie. I really like how they went about it, and I'll talk about that in a bit. Again, I like part 1 movies that lead off with cliffhangers. I think they're a lot of fun, but just because it's a part 1 movie doesn't justify leaving the setups open-ended at the end of the film. Some of these things could have been resolved, or at least had a false resolution that could have left room for a seemingly minuscule factor setting up a whole new conflict in the next movie, an escape hatch for antagonistic forces, and that communicates to the audience, this ain't over yet, boys and girls. Spot was a great example of this. I talked about this earlier. He starts as this miserable and pathetic antagonist, but as the picture progresses, he gains more power and ultimately is ready to destroy Miles' world at the end of the movie. And that's the cliffhanger. I think this could have been a great escape hatch to really lean into, resolve some of the other points a bit more, and leave the big window to set up the next installment with Spot, as well as Miles' alternate version being the Prowler and all of these things. I don't know, I think emotionally resolving some of the things with Spider Society would have felt a lot nicer. Something needed to bookend this movie. Everything was set up and nothing was a major payoff. None of the major points paid off. Again, I think my main problem is one thing needed to be paid off. One thing, one major plot point had to bookend the movie. But the way it stands, it felt like the movie was just starting, and then suddenly it ended. It's the same way I felt about Dune, another movie that I really liked, and maybe I'll talk about that another time. And if I were to watch this movie and then the next back to back, that's cool, but that's not what it is yet. The movie is not coming out for almost another year, and that's disappointing. I don't know, a lot of people can agree, and a lot of people didn't feel this way at all. Let me know your opinions in the comments. I really want to hear some of the different sides about this. Now, with that being said, Miles Morales is one of my favorite characters in general. He's a likable kid, and he's the only reason I actually care about Spider-Man in the first place. I don't know if it's just me, but Peter Parker never really interested me as a character. Not that he's a bad character, he's a great character, but I could never connect with Peter. He always seemed distant from me. The rest of the characters were amazing, the sound and the music is incredible, and the voice actors killed it, just like they did in the last movie. But ultimately, it felt like an Act 1 movie for me, so I was kind of bummed. Cliffhangers are fun, again, but the movie felt like an overwritten prologue to me. An exciting and fun prologue, but still just a prologue. Subscribe if you want to see more. I normally don't like talking about movies I don't like. Even though I am criticizing a major point in this movie, I still really like this movie, and I can't wait to see what happens next. Thanks for watching.